Hello, I am Zhao, and my book Xiran and the Dragon Emperor is about a Chinese-American boy who has to team up with the spirit of the first emperor of China in order to go on an artifact heisting adventure across modern China.
Xiran Zhao is the New York Times bestselling author of Iron Widow, and most recently, Xiran and the Dragon Emperor. Their latest book is inspired by the history of China, with a bit of Yu-Gi-Oh influence, and how one little boy will stop at nothing to save his mother from the underworld. Hi, I'm Gemma, and welcome to the Red Carpet. Xiran is here today to talk about their latest book, Xiran and the Dragon Emperor, and I know this adventure is going to keep you on the edge of your seat. Hi Xiran, thank you for taking the time to be here with us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Xiran and the Dragon Emperor has many elements to it: artificial reality, global history, magical powers, and our unlikely hero Zachary has to figure it all out in order to save his mom. Can you give our audience a quick summary of your book?
Yes, so Xiran and the Dragon Emperor is about Zach, a 12-year-old Chinese-American boy who's not really in touch with the Chinese side of his heritage, but then one day, the spirit of the first emperor of China unexpectedly whisks him away to an adventure across modern China in order to go heist magical artifacts.
Love it. So your main character, Zachary, is a scared child who rises above his fears with the support of the people around him to save his mother. Can you tell us more about him and his struggles?
Well, I wouldn't really say that he was supported by the people around him and the people who go on this adventure with him. So, and that is part of his development, his story. And his struggle is very much he grew up very meek and he is afraid to stand up for himself. And throughout being with these emperor spirits, he learns how to just stand up for himself some more, but also to not make the mistakes they do because everybody hates them and he doesn't want to actually be hated. He just wants to have a stronger backbone.
I definitely got that vibe when reading the book. But also, something that stood out to me while reading was about how much Zachary didn't know about his own background. For those not familiar with the way Muslims in China, the readers get to learn quite a bit about them. Is there any special reason you chose to showcase this ethnic group?
Well, I think it's because most people don't even know that China has, 56 official ethnic groups. There are probably unofficial many more. And so I wanted to represent one of these minority ethnic groups, which I am from one of them. It's called Binghui Chinese, and we are traditionally Muslim. So I gave that background to Zach because I just wanted that to be represented in English literature.
The Dragon Emperor, who is supposed to be a supporting main character, is not entirely a good guy. You spotlight both his accomplishments and his crimes throughout the book, which was an interesting way to present him. Can you tell us more about how you wanted to depict him?
Well, I definitely wanted to portray him in a way that is clear that you can't really see him in black or white terms. I feel like a lot of Chinese people can relate to this feeling of liking a lot about our culture, but also disliking some things that are happening in our country. And so I wanted to represent that the dissonance and the way that things can't be interpreted as black or white in this book.
This man, even though he's so crucial to Chinese history, he's also committed a lot of crimes. He's done bad things. And recognizing that kind of makes us all more human, just because sometimes we do bad things as well. Even though this man definitely did a lot of bad things.
Yeah. Well, the average person, we don't do as many bad things as to his degree. But I do feel like that for historical figures, especially ones that are foundational to a country, it's very easy to fall into the trap of glamorizing them, to glorify them, like America with its founding fathers for sure. American textbooks are not telling you about the bad things they did. But I think in the case of the first emperor of China, he's unique because his dynasty got taken down so quickly after he died that people felt free to talk smack about him very quickly. So that's why he has such a complex reputation, even among just basic historical teachings to us as Chinese people.
Of all the historical figures you researched, Why did you choose Jin Shi Huang to be paired with Zachary?
I just find that he has such a grandiose personality that he would be some kind of influence on Zachary. Like he's not a good influence or a bad influence, but for sure he influences Zach to change.
Definitely. I did feel that his personality did shine through in the book, and following along with Zach's journey, like he definitely did get bolder and he did get sassier, and I loved reading just who he was and how they interacted with each other. In your story, you blended both past and future in your book by including history and artificial reality. It was clever to keep the historical figures tied into the story with the kids by binding the spirits of past rulers to them. How did you come up with this idea?
So I've just really always been fascinated with the concept of mixing futuristic elements with ancient elements. So I just found it to be a very fascinating concept of if the first emperor of China had his spirit bound to an AR gaming headset. And this is for sure very inspired by Yu-Gi-Oh! Because Yu-Gi-Oh! Has that whole thing where, it's a spirit of an ancient Egyptian pharaoh who's now in the body of this modern Japanese boy, and they have to play card games with holograms. And I just really like that, and it has stuck with me my entire life. And I wanted to write something inspired by that.
I think your love for the blending of the past and future is also relevant or prevalent because it's also featured in Iron Widow as well, right?
It is. I just love that stuff.
I do too. That's why I picked it up. Part of what makes this book so fun is how you get to dispel misconceptions about famous figures and also share their little-known achievements. What were some of your favorite things that you highlighted in the book?
Well, this is not really an achievement, but I like the story of the first emperor almost getting assassinated by this assassin named Jin Ke, and he got chased around a pillar in his throne room by Jin Ke. And that is just such a funny story because, it's the first emperor of China. He's supposed to be this untouchable figure. And yet this assassination story is so famous, and it's really humiliating. It's really humiliating for him. But it's it's just so funny to me. And I love that I got to put it in the book.
Can I just say, when I got to that point in the story, I did laugh out loud just because of how the imagery was so ridiculous. You have this figure that's supposed to be untouchable, and then something this ridiculous happens to him. I loved it.
It was recorded in history 2,000 years ago. And okay, here's the thing. He was really, really tall. I mean, his sword was 162 centimeters long. So he would have had to been I don't know, 2 meters tall almost in order to wield a sword that long. And yet he's being chased around by this assassin in his own throne room.
Additionally, this book obviously centers around Chinese history, but also features Western characters as well. What started your love for history?
My love for history, I think it started when I was growing up in China, and China has really good educational programs on TV. It's nothing like the History Channel of the United States, which is kind of suspect nowadays. But in China, I just loved the historical programs that are on TV, because especially there was this one that aired every noon, and it featured university professors giving lectures. And I loved that. Even I was I don't know, 8 years old or something, and I just loved listening to these university professor lectures about history.
Can you describe how intense your research process was? How long it took, what resources you used?
I don't think I really did much active research for this book, because a lot of it's already in my head, so I just pulled from it. And I am just constantly giving out historical anecdotes in the book, and for those I just I just put them down wherever I saw fit, wherever I found an excuse to bring them up. So it's not really a result of my research. It's just me sharing what's already in my head. But I did make sure to fact check them.
Well, thank you for that, because I did learn a lot through this book, and I hope most of them are real.
Yeah.
I appreciate how Zachary goes through feelings of not being viewed as American, but also not feeling connected to his Chinese heritage. I think there are a lot of people out there who also feel like they're not enough of either side of their background and can relate to him. Can you talk more about why you presented the main character in this way?
Well, it's because it's based on my own experiences. I mean, I came to Canada permanently when I was 12, and I did not have a great time. In my school, I just felt so like alien at all times, and it took many years for me to like unpack these feelings. And so I wrote this book in hopes of like doing some of the unpacking for the next generation who reads this book.
What are you most excited for readers to experience in this book?
So I am most excited for them to like read the stories about the first emperor of China, because, you know, in one story you could be like really impressed by him and like the way that he has impacted history for 2000 years, and in the next story you're just appalled by the things that he did that were completely unnecessary.
Well, clearly I enjoyed it. He was probably my favorite character just because of how sassy he was.
Yeah.
So, Zachary Ying is not your first book, and you mentioned that you had to write this book in order to make ends meet, even though your debut novel, Iron Widow, was the #1 New York Times bestseller. What struggles did you encounter during this time?
So Iron Widow didn't become a bestseller until it came out in September 2021. And the way publishing works is that once you sell a book, it takes around 2 years for it to actually come out. And I didn't get a very large book deal for Iron Widow, so I didn't get a very large advance payment. And therefore, I couldn't actually live on that Iron Widow money alone. So I had to immediately write this new series in hopes of selling it and getting some more money so that I can actually make ends meet. And so that's why I wrote Zachary in a 2 months frenzy, because I was like so desperate.
That is so impressive. Oh my gosh. But I'm sorry it had to come to that, but I do appreciate that this book now exists.
Yeah.
What advice would you want to give younger Xiran about writing and publishing?
Don't be too naive. Do actually think more about the business and market side of things. Don't assume that you're just going to wow people into ignoring all of those like customs and the way they do things, because publishing is a business and you do have to like think about these things.
And I do appreciate that you are giving a voice to this, just because so many people are afraid to speak up against the unfairness of it all. But I have noticed that you have been calling these industries out just for how unfairly they're treating their authors.
Well, yeah, because like for me, it just felt so ridiculous that I have this, you know, mega bestseller Iron Widow, but the sequel is going to be like 3 years late simply because I didn't get paid enough to prioritize writing it.
Which is understandable. As a Chinese immigrant, did you face hardships in the publishing industry that isn't talked about much?
I think the whole like book deal thing isn't talked about much. Like everyone talks about how hard it is to go up against publishing gatekeepers, because they think that because there are fewer Chinese people that our books don't sell because only other Chinese people want to read our books. But I think the most unspoken hardship is still about the payment structure, how publishing only pays authors twice per year, which is, you know, just ridiculous, but yet it has somehow become the industry standard. And I think it's because, like, authors are afraid to talk about it.
Your own family didn't believe you would make it as a writer even after your first book. What do they think now?
Well, now they try to brag about me at every chance, but then I remind them, you didn't actually believe in me, okay? You can't take credit for this.
But you made your way here, and I am very proud of you. What does this story mean for you personally?
Zachary, and for me to be able to publish a book with like such niche Chinese history, I mean, not everybody knows about the Qing dynasty and the Warring States history, and it's just like it's so niche, and I feel so grateful to be able to put that in English and have it available in every bookstore so that young Chinese diaspora can read it. And it feels so incredible to be able to share that with them.
And even though I'm not Chinese, I appreciate learning everything that I got from this book as well.
Yeah, I mean, and it really is so niche. I mean, like some of it you can't even find on English Wikipedia.
Well, thank you for including it. So we are a K-pop station. Do you listen to any K-pop?
I do. I've been listening to K-pop ever since the girls' generation. All right.
Oh, great choice. I love them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Your latest book, Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor, was released in 2022. Can you tease the audience with something from the book?
Something from the book. All right. My favorite line in this book is when, in a scene where Zach and the emperors and his friends are being attacked by Chinese mermaids because as Zach finds out, the first emperor of China made lamps out of mermaid oil in order to light up his mausoleum, and this is like actually recorded in history. And then, so the mermaids are attacking them for good reason. And the other emperor spirits are berating the first emperor for it. And he's just like, this isn't even close to the worst thing I've ever done. I don't know why we're being punished for it.
Sorry, that was so unexpected the way that you presented that. But I'm sure our audience is going to love that scene. Thank you for that. Do you have anything else in the works?
Yes, right now I am working on the sequel to Iron Widow, Heavenly Tyrant, which will hopefully release next spring. We'll see. It has been a challenge to balance writing two different series at once, which is not an ideal position, but at the same time, I didn't really have a choice but to get into this position. So hopefully I will catch up on my deadlines at some point and actually like release more books.
I wish you luck because I am so excited to read more from you. I'm so excited for the Iron Widow sequel. I know that we haven't really discussed it much yet, but I hope to have you back for that someday.
Oh, okay.
If you'd like. So where can we find your books for purchase?
My books are available from basically any place that you can buy books from, but I recommend getting it from an indie bookstore to combat capitalism. Or you can get it from bookshop.org if you're in the United States, because they're a website that shares profits with indie bookstores, which I think is great.
Oh, I love that. And where can we find you?
I am Xiran Zhao on Twitter, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Tumblr, on Instagram. I am on all the social media websites under the same handle. It's just my name.
And be sure to check out their YouTube channel. Thank you so much for giving us a taste of Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor, Xiran. I had such a blast following Zachary's story as he battles his demons both inside and out, and I'm sure our viewers will too.
Thank you for inviting me. This was such a nice chat.
I'm so happy that you had fun too. My guest today has been author Xiran J. Zhao with their book, Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor, available for purchase wherever books are sold, including your favorite indie bookstore. You can find us with more conversations with authors at 24hourkpop.com. I'm Gemma for the Kpop-TV Entertainment Network, and I'll see you next time.